During your childhood, was there someone in your life that made you feel safe, like nothing could ever harm you? More than likely, the answer is yes. But for many children, their childhood is not remembered as this. Imagine a childhood where there is not that safe zone. You are scared, frightened, and you have nowhere to go. For someone who has a childhood filled with nothing but good memories, it's hard to imagine this, but it happens quite often. According to Atlantic.com, in more than 80% of child cases, one or both parents were the perpetrators. Among the victimized children, 18% were physically abused, 9% were sexually abused, and 8.5% were psychologically maltreated. Many of these cases are reported each year to the authorities, as well as Child Protective Services, referred to as CPS. As a child who was in the system of CPS, I know firsthand of what it is like to have a childhood filled with such fear. I myself was taken from an unsafe situation and then placed into a foster home, and then finally the state of Texas ruled it was the best fit that my grandparents become my guardians. But in the brief period of time that I was in the custody of CPS, my experience was nothing but terrifying. Statistics show that many child fatalities occur with children who were in the foster care system and later reunited with their families. Adults need to stand up and speak for these children who cannot. For this to come to an end, Child Protective Services need to completely change their whole platform in order to stop the mistreatment of children and possibly their death. There are separate requirements to become a social worker and a foster parent. To become a social worker, the requirements are much strenuous. In order to be a social worker, you must obtain a 4-year bachelor's degree in one of the following categories: psychology, sociology, social work, or something similar to this. Most social workers do this out of their love for children. According to study.com, the average social worker salary in 2014 was $59,100. Typically, someone with a bachelor's degree makes more than this, but since social workers do this out of their love for children, it isn't about the pay for them. To become a foster parent, the requirements are much different. You do not need to have a bachelor's degree, nor is it a requirement to have an associate's degree. In order to be a foster parent, you must be 25 or older, have another means of income, have a safe home, a clean record, and also a schedule flexible enough that you can take the child to its court cases. Most adults meet these standards. According to Simply Hired, the average foster parent makes $48,000 per year in addition to their other income. Considering that foster parents meet these relatively easy requirements and do not obtain a degree and just sign up, they do not have the love for children that social workers do. Most foster parents, but not all, decide to become foster parents as a way just to make extra money. In my certain situation with CPS, this is what occurred with my foster parent. It is clear that the requirements are different for both social workers and foster parents, but more training is needed for both. Although social workers have a bachelor's degree, they are also not actually trained for certain situations. Social workers need to be put in real-life scenarios and evaluated on how they handle them, similar to what police do on how they train for certain real-life situations. Foster families do not have any requirements regarding children. If they seem like a good citizen, then they are then deemed fit for the job. Perhaps they too need a degree in order to become a foster parent. CPS needs to change how they hire both social workers and foster parents in order to ensure that children are looked after properly. Not only does CPS not train their workers to the extent they should, but also children are returned back to the very same families that they are once taken away from. Many child fatalities are a result of CPS not following up on cases. According to Atlantic.com, in 30 reporting states, 8.5% of child fatalities were involved families who had received family preservation services in the past 5 years. In 35 reporting states, 2.2% of child fatalities were children who had been in foster care and were reunited within their families in the past 5 years. Picture here also from Atlantic.com is 3.8 million children who were duplicate children, meaning that they had been in the system multiple times. Also, pictured down here is 1,640 child fatalities. Each of these 5 fatalities could have been stopped if CPS would have followed up on the children after they were out of their care to ensure that they were safe. I personally know a family who had multiple children taken away, and at the time that they were being taken away, the woman was pregnant. CPS told this family that if they were willing to give up the children that they had, then she could keep the one she was pregnant with. To this day, this child is abused and no one has followed up on his case. CPS needs to follow up on the families they return the children back to ensure their safety, and also follow up on cases like the one I described. In addition to CPS needing to do follow-ups on cases, they also need to evaluate foster homes more carefully. Many children in foster homes continue to be abused due to no extra supervision. These children in foster homes have nowhere else to go. They are taken away from their families because they are being abused, and it is not safe for them to stay there any longer. And yet, these same foster homes are abusing these children. According to KevinMD.com, in December of 2013, that month, an 11-year-old foster child was found handcuffed on his front porch with a dead chicken hung around his neck. In 2003, a Pennsylvania foster mother was arrested due to the death of her foster daughter from asphyxiation from duct tape over her mouth to enforce a timeout. Also, an inquiry into the Trenton, New Jersey foster care system that year found that up to 1 in 5 foster children were abused while in their foster homes. These are just a few cases out of many. Stricter supervision needs to occur within CPS to make sure children are being put into a safe home. In conclusion, Child Protective Services needs to enforce stricter requirements to become a social worker as well as a foster parent. These children are taken away from their families who abuse them, and sometimes they are put right back into a dangerous situation. CPS does help many children in danger, however, many are left helpless that should not have been. Follow-ups on cases need to take place as well as stricter supervision for the foster families. Today I've talked about how Child Protective Services needs to change multiple policies in order to benefit the children it looks after. I personally have experienced an abusive home and then being taken to another abusive foster home. I know what it is like to be completely helpless and having no hope, but I truly think that it is possible that it will come to an end if everyone stands up and gives these children a voice to be heard.